and disease. That's about 2 every second. About 1 every 2 seconds. In a world where there should be enough food for all, 35,000 children are dying every day from hunger, malnutrition and disease, simply for the necessities of life that you and I take for granted. In terms of countries, we have in our world today 38 countries of our world facing food shortages. In terms of starvation, 57 million people die per year, 156,000 die per day. In the relation to the world's population, we are told that 60% of our 6 billion inhabitants, 60% are malnourished, and 20% of them will end up starving for a lack of food. Friends, we are seeing today, right now, before our very eyes, as never before in the history of mankind, the famine sign being fulfilled. So Jesus said there'll be wars, there'll be famines, but he also goes on now in Matthew 24 verse 7 as well, and he says, and there shall be earthquakes in diverse or different places. You know, in our world, there's always been earthquakes in the world, but in our world today, we have seen something very interesting in the last 20, 30 to 40 years. Earthquakes have been increasing at a rapid rate. Yeah, in the early 1980s, there was around about 11,000 earthquakes recorded on planet Earth. As we got to the year 2001, we find that there was around 21,000 earthquakes being recorded on planet Earth. In just 20 odd years, it's gone from about 11,000 to 21,000. There are around 6,000 major earthquakes, what they class as a major earthquake, every year on planet Earth. Earthquakes are increasing in intensity and in frequency. In fact, only about 5 to 6 months ago, I myself found myself in an earthquake. I was over in the islands of Vanuatu on a small island called Atchin Island. I was running a series of meetings just like this. It was called the Final Events of Bible Prophecy. And the second night of the program, which is actually this very night, before I spoke this particular lecture on signs of the times and the earthquake sign, the very night before that, we were laying in our beds, and at about 4 o'clock in the morning, 10 past 4 in the morning, our house and our bed began to shake back and forward across the room. We could hear bottles and things smashing on the concrete in the different rooms, and we woke up, didn't know what was going on. It was an earthquake. And that's the first time I've been in an earthquake, and it's a frightening experience, the power of nature when that earth begins to move. We were sleeping in this big bed. It was made out of, typical island bed was made out of tree trunks. You could hardly even move it. But the whole bed was just shaking back and forward across the concrete floor. Major earthquakes have taken place more and more frequently. And back in the year, I think it was 2003, I believe it was 2003, December, there was a major earthquake that took place in Iran. There was about 50,000 people that were killed in that earthquake. And just after that took place, the Sydney Morning Herald brought out a chart, which I found very interesting in relation to the Bible and the earthquake sign. It brought out a chart depicting the major earthquakes since 1923. Now you'll notice on the screen here, I've got this chart for us to look at. Now you'll notice on this chart, we see a major increase in major earthquakes in the last 10 to 15 years. Notice the chart. From 1923 to 1988, there was recorded 9 major earthquakes in 65 years. But we go from 1990 down to 2003, and we find there is 14 major earthquakes in just 13 years. So we had 9 major earthquakes in 65 years to 1988, and now we have 14 major earthquakes in just 13 years up until 2003. Now, of course, since then, we've had some major earthquakes. We had that major earthquake which caused that great tsunami that wiped out much of the coast of Asia and India and so forth. That was after 2003. We are seeing a major increase in the earthquake sign taking place in our world today. Also with the earthquakes, Jesus mentioned that there would be other disasters. Notice the other words that Jesus used in other Gospels, talking about the same signs of the times. In Luke 21 verse 11, he said, fearful sights. In Luke 21:25, he said, the sea and the waves roaring. In Mark 13 verse 8, he said, and troubles. We are seeing earthquakes. We are seeing the sea and the waves roaring. We are seeing troubles. We are seeing fearful sights. We are seeing natural disasters taking place around this world as we have never seen them take place before. Even just a couple of days ago, for those who are watching the news, those massive tornadoes that came through in America there just tore places to shreds. People were killed. This is happening more and more frequently and with more and more intensity. Now, Jesus goes on. He's given us a war sign. There's the earthquake sign. There's the famine sign. And Jesus now says in Matthew 24, verse 7, and there shall be pestilences. There shall be pestilences, he says, one of the signs before I come. There shall be pestilences. You know, it wasn't that long ago, back in 1918, when the Spanish influenza epidemic broke out, which killed about, well, they estimate between 20 and 40 million people. Of course, today we have things like AIDS. They say today that it's between 6,000 and 7,000 young people being infected every day with the AIDS virus. It's one every 3 or 4 minutes. It's taking place right before our eyes. The World Health Organization now says that we have over 40 million cases of AIDS around this world, and it's growing faster and faster and faster. In some places in Africa, 1 in every 2 people have been infected with the AIDS virus. Of course, we have today superbugs, bacteria that are becoming immune to the strongest antibiotics. We have things like Ebola, mad cow disease, we have SARS. Of course, we have the bird flu, which is causing a lot of concern in different places at the moment. Anthrax, of course, we talked about AIDS. Today, the pestilence sign is synchronizing with the rest of the signs that Jesus gave of how and when he would come back to this earth. Another sign that Jesus gave is found there in Luke chapter 21, verse 25. And upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity. Notice these words. Upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. As we look at our society today, friends, we would have to all agree that there is great fear, great concern in our world today. People are wondering what is going to happen. There's great concern and fear about many different things, about population explosion. Many are concerned about the worldwide economic difficulties. Others are concerned about the greenhouse effect, the diminishing ozone layer. Others are concerned about the nuclear weapons that are stockpiled around this world. Others are concerned about worldwide terrorism. And those last two together are causing great fear, especially amongst those in the United States of America. They're greatly fearful of a terrorist getting hold of a nuclear weapon, or a nuclear device at least, and detonating that device somewhere in the United States of America. And according to latest reports from America itself, this is not just the newspapers, this is their intelligence, they believe that there is possibly 1 or at least 2 of these devices already in the United States of America. This is causing great fear, friends.